guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button. You have nothing to lose. It'll be a very interesting channel for you. And if you're returning, thank you for coming back to watch another video. Today I wanted to come on and just kind of talk about this case. And I'm not for sure I'm sure you all have heard it if you've watched YouTube. I'm not for sure. I haven't seen it really on the news anywhere. But it's a case about little Maria Gonzalez that lives in Pasadena, Texas. And this was an 11-year-old girl that was left home alone. She was 11. And her dad went to work on Saturday. Her dad would leave at 9:45 in the morning. And around 10 o'clock, Maria texted him and said, "There's a stranger at the door." And he responded back by saying, "Don't answer the door. Don't let him in." And she said, "I'm okay. I'm in my bed." So apparently after he did not hear from her, he called to check on her and he did not hear from her. She wasn't answering his texts or phone calls. And so he there was an aunt and uncle that, and I guess family members that lived in the apartment complex. And so he had asked the aunt and the uncle to please go and check on Maria because he hadn't heard from her. There was two different scenarios, and I think, there was two different, not scenarios, but two different news reports that I had watched. One said that the door was, I guess they walked in, and then the other two said that the door was open when they got there. So they walked in and they, to see, what's going on with Maria and where she was, and she was nowhere to be found. But there was things in disarray. And so the aunt, I believe, walked in first, and then she backed out because she seen that these things were in disarray, and then told the uncle, you need to go in there and see what's going on. So the uncle looked around, couldn't find Maria. So then they contacted Maria, her dad, at work, because he was still at work, and, told him what was going on. They also did a search around the apartment complex and could not find anything. A lot of people were saying, well, why didn't the dad come home right away? And that, I think, would have been any parent's first instinct, is to say, you know what, I'm not getting a hold of my child. I have to leave work. And I say that by saying this. Sometimes, being a single parent, and the job that you're working, and I don't know that it would be really insensitive for an employer to say, no, you can't go home because, you have to work if your child's missing. These people are from Guatemala, from what I understand. And they, a lot of people in this community is from Guatemala. And this case happened out of Pasadena, Texas. So, don't, until you've walked a mile in someone else's shoes, you can't say what they're thinking. After he worked his whole shift, he got home at around 3:30, and he started looking around to see if he could find his daughter, and he found her remains under his bed. She was unalived and put into 2 trash bags. So he he was heartbroken, of course, as any parent would be. You often, sometimes as parents, we're put in a hard place. And, as a single parent, I've left my kids home alone. My daughter was 11, and she stayed with her 2 sisters that were younger with her when I had to go to work for a couple of hours. And you never, think that, something bad is going to happen to your children when you're just, you have to go out to work and you don't have any other options. no other babysitters, nothing. And so it's like, okay, lock the door, don't let anybody in, call me if you need me. And, there was a case, there was, something that happened when my kids had stayed home. And they had called me and said, Mom, there's somebody looking, banging on our door, and they're looking in the window. And so, they're looking in the window and they're banging on the door. So I thought, okay, so I got off work. If I'm gonna, nobody's gonna tell me I'm not gonna go and check on my kids. That's first of all. Um, and money, you have to think, are they going to dock my pay? And that's probably what he was thinking, is I can't afford to lose this day's work. However, nobody was going to tell me that I'm not going to get off work and go and check on my children. So I did. And it turned out that they were concerned about our dog that was outside in the backyard because he was barking and barking. And he was out, barking, and he didn't have water. We did not leave our dogs outside. That's first off. We always put our dogs were inside dogs. So, for that to have happened, I was like, okay. So I told him, it was, my neighbor had a guy that lived in a trailer in the back of his yard that he was renting that space to. And so, this guy comes and he says, I was just concerned about the dog. And I said, did you have to beat on the door like that? Don't do that. Don't come and looking in my windows and banging on the door. I says, that's not acceptable. But I also know this. People tend to watch your pattern of when you go to work, what time you get home, what time you leave, and they kind of look at your routine to see, you know, this, she goes to work every day at 7, she gets home every day at 5, the kids get home every day. My daughter was actually in high school, so she walked, at this time she was in middle school, but when she got into high school, she walked home once in a while. And I did not want her to always have the same pattern day in and day out. So it was like, you know what? This day we're going to do this day we're going to do that, leave at this time, this day, just kind of mix it up. How they tell you, don't always go to the same route. If you're taking a route, don't always go that same route, because people do watch and see what you do. And so I'm almost positive that the guy that did this knew that Dad was going to work, and that he left every day at 9:45 or on Saturday and Sunday, and then what time he got home. So he knew that he had plenty of time to go in and do whatever he wanted with this innocent child. So the dad would come home at 3:30 to find her remains under his bed. So that's when he reported her missing. He did a report and reported her missing. Well, they did a thorough investigation, and they found a key. And this guy here was 18, and he's 18, and he lived in the apartment complex. He had just been in the apartment complex a little over a month. Now, 2 weeks prior to this happening, they had a big birthday party for her in the apartment complex. And a lot of the neighbors were, a lot of neighbors came over, and her family as well. And they, got together and celebrated her 11th birthday. And so she had just turned 11. And so I'm wondering, was this guy there? Was he taking a look and just kind of seeping around, seeing what he could do and who he could find to, take advantage of? And also, was he, well, of course, he probably did. He probably looked at every time the dad went to work, he probably looked at the pattern, and the dad probably had the same pattern every single day. This, I leave at 9:45, I get home at 3:30. and he's probably looking at this pattern saying, and he's leaving the little girl home, because no sooner than the dad left, 15 minutes after, he was knocking at the door. So he had only lived at this apartment complex, I want to say, between 3 to 4 weeks. And the only reason that they caught him is because he was so stupid and he left a key. And so he left his key in the apartment complex, and that's how they found him, because of this key. And I guess they were going around, and with the help of the apartment manager and the maintenance guy, they were able to figure out that it was this guy. So they have taken this guy into custody. The mom is in Guatemala with the younger sister, so she does have a sibling, and so the younger sister is with the mom. The mom is living in Guatemala. I keep saying Guadalajara, but it's Guatemala. And because she has heart problems, so she's there getting surgery and medical treatment of what she needs. And I'm sure it's really sad for her to see her daughter murdered, emmed, and she can't be there. She, however, said in a statement that, I don't want to cry anymore because she's in a better place and I've cried enough. And even then, people were attacking her for saying, "Oh, I don't want to cry anymore." People take things differently, and we all handle things differently. And when something happens, you might not want to cry. You might have cried all you can. I mean, all you have. And then when you get in front of somebody, it's just like you're cried out, and you want to be strong, and you want to, move on, and you want to do this. So, people, let's not judge the way others handle, different situations. Just because a person's not crying, they said that about the dad. He wasn't crying. Just because he's not crying does not mean he's not hurt. We can't tell people how to grieve and how to act when a tragic situation comes up, or something happens. You grieve the way you grieve, I grieve the way I grieve, and she'll grieve the way she grieves, and he'll grieve the way he grieves. It's not, that important to sit and, speculate. This is an 11-year-old little girl that has lost her life, that was taken too soon. She was SA'd, and blunt trauma to her head is how she was unalived, and stuffed like a piece of trash in a garbage bag. And this guy is 18 years old. 18. And it's like, now you've lost your whole life because of one dumb idea that you had to go, and take advantage of this little 11-year-old. How dare you? How dare you? So I hope that you get what you get when you go to prison, because everybody has their karma. And I hear that they don't like people that take advantage of young kids. So I hope that you get whatever is coming to you. And I'm going to leave it at that for him. But, there was a lot of people saying, "Oh, I wouldn't have left my daughter there by herself. I wouldn't have." And I say, you don't know what you would do, and as a single parent. And that's why I told the story about me as a single parent and having to leave my kids home alone. Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. It's either you're homeless, or you go to work, and you want to keep your kids safe as possible. And you feel like, what, as long as they lock that door and they don't let anybody in, they'll be fine. But unfortunately, this is a very cruel world that we live in. And so we just have to, I know that every time I left my kids, to go to work, it was, I prayed and put a hedge of protection around them to make sure that they were okay. I called them and I checked on them, and they were able to call me and to check, to check in with me and to let me know that they were okay. Um, and if they weren't answering, I called, all of them had cell phones. So it's like, what, if one wasn't answering, I'm calling the next one. And if that one didn't answer and there was something wrong, and I'm coming home because I want to check and see what's going on. I'm not going to stay at work and work a full shift. I'm coming home. However, I'm not knocking him for staying at home. I mean, for staying at work and finishing his shift. That's something that he has to deal with. And we don't know what circumstances or what situation he was in. So, let me know what you guys think. Please leave comments in the in on the comments, under the comment section, and let me know, what you guys think, and have you ever had to leave your children home alone because you had to go to work? So I think that sometimes, we're quick to criticize someone else, and it's like that saying, don't judge me until you've walked a mile in my shoes. I wasn't fortunate to have babysitters at hand. you know um I do think, well, why didn't he ask the aunt and uncle if she could go and stay with them while he went to work? And maybe she was just like, Dad, I want to stay home, and watch TV. I'll be okay. Auntie and uncle are in the building. If I need them, I can run over there or whatnot. And he probably felt safe with doing that. When somebody lives in the apartment complex, if you have an aunt that lives in an apartment complex, or you have, somebody that lives, a friend, you feel like, oh, okay, well, if something happens, they can always call them and the friend will run over there and help me out with whatever I need. You're just not thinking, that something's going to happen. I think he did his best by saying, don't open the door. I don't think that he thought that anything was going to happen to his precious little angel, but unfortunately it did. And I want to say to him, thank you so much for being so dumb and leaving the key or leaving evidence behind, so that, this case got solved so quickly. Because sometimes, I mean, maybe probably anything, if that key wasn't left behind, it probably would never be solved. They would have never caught who did it. So, as parents, sometimes we have to make unfortunate decisions, and we're not trying to put our kids in harm's way, but it's we work, or we're homeless and we have nowhere to go. It's we work so that our rent can be paid. We work so that we can provide for our children. So, sometimes, we don't always make the best choices, but some of the choices that we have to make is, I've got to go to work. Let me, leave them home by themselves, and um you know so, you never, and I also want to say this: don't always have the same pattern. If you can, switch up your routine, because you never know who's watching. You never know who is watching you, and what you do, what your routine is every day. Okay, well, you know she goes to work at 7 every day. You have that same routine, or or you're going for a walk in the morning and you take that same direction, or you take the same, direction home. So, I think that sometimes, just to be aware of things going around, what's going on around you, change up your routine sometimes, and don't do the same thing that you do day in and day out. Change your routine so that if somebody's watching, they can't figure out your schedule of when you're going to be home. And I say that too, as far as somebody breaking into your home. We all have to be aware of our surroundings and what's going on. And in this day, it's sad that we have to do that, but we're living in a different type of world. I hear a lot of people say, oh, we used to leave the doors open, or we used to leave the doors unlocked. Now, I would never do that. I don't care how safe a neighborhood is. I don't care. I don't think that I would just leave my doors open ever. um, Especially at night. Now, during the day, and I do lock them. If I have my sliding glass doors open, I lock the door. I don't want, just to feel comfortable, even if it's in my backyard, because we have a lock on our gate in the back. But, hey, somebody can jump over that gate and just come right on in. So no, I would never leave my door unlocked. But I say this to say, maybe when you are leaving your children home, and I know that with my children, when I left them home alone, um, I would often tell them to hide in a specific, excuse me, spot, and do not come out. Do not come out unless you hear my voice. Unless they say, if you're on the phone with 911 and the police, 911 dispatch says, oh, the police officer's there, he's calling out for you. Do you hear him? That you come out. Because sometimes when these perpetrators are coming into your home and they're, coming in to do harm, they're coming in to steal, or if they know that a child's there, they're coming in there to do something. So, I would always tell my kids, don't even, if somebody says, come on out, it's a police or whatever, you don't come out. You're going to call me and I'm going to be right there as soon as I can. And, this particular incident that I told you about in the beginning, I was so mad and I didn't even think twice. I didn't even think twice. It was just like my mother bear instincts kicked in, and it was like, you know what? You will not mess with my children, you know? And so, it was a funny story. I had, and the only thing that I had was this knife that you cut boxes with, and I kept that in my glove compartment. And so I took that out of the car, and I was like, you know what? If you're, my kids better be okay. And, I'm opening the door shaking and I'm looking around to make sure, what is going on? Where is he at? And I have this knife, this, box cutter, and and it broke off. The tip broke off, and I was like, okay, now what am I going to do with my mother instincts kicked in, and I, you know, um, handled it. It was good. But I mean, just this is not. I'm not joking about or taking the story lightly. I just wanted to tell you all that story. Um, but yeah, so just be aware of what's going on with your surroundings, and teach your children to hide in a safe place. Have a safe place for them to hide somewhere until the police or you arrive home, and don't come out until you know for sure that you're safe to come out. Don't just come out because somebody says, oh, we're here, police, because that can be a trap as well. So just some kind of tips of to tell your children. And don't make it an obvious place. Make it a place to where that might be the last place that they look, because they're always going to look under the bed or in the closet, or so don't make it obvious. um you know for them, if you have to leave your children at home. But prayers out to the family for this precious Maria Gonzalez and her family. Prayers to her mom that she heals and she gets better with whatever's going on with her medical condition. Prayers for the dad who had to find his precious angel. And we just want to keep them in prayer. We also want to keep this monster in prayer. And I know that that's not always obvious. We don't want to always do that because we're so angry and filled with pain. But God says, pray for your enemies and pray for the people that do wrong. Am I perfect with that all the time? No, I'm not, but I'm working on it every single day. So let us send prayers out to the family as well as this monster that did this. Please hit the subscribe button. Please like my videos. It helps me out when you all like my videos. So if you don't subscribe, if you watch the video, just please hit the like button. And if you're coming back and back, and please subscribe. And I don't want to sound like I'm begging, but it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe. It just, it's free. So you can hit the subscribe button. And I do cooking. We do discussions like this. We do a lot of true crime cases. So I'd love to have you as our community. So until next